The Fan.
Supersonic.
The 2024 MN Home and Remodel Show is the ultimate destination for home improvement enthusiasts. Come and discover, learn, and have fun at U.S. Bank Stadium February 2nd through the 4th. Head over to our contest page for a chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets. That's KFAN.com, keyword contest to enter.
That are rocking your world. Supersonic. Supersonic. Supersonic is a word when people start to listen. Especially bigger people, they pay close attention. You might not believe it. You might not even buy it. But when it comes to our lady, you might even try it. Supersonic. Supersonic. Now all you super
I hope it doesn't become a tradition or, tradition of sitting, watching the NFL playoffs. Our favorite team is not in the mix, and we're all fawning over someone's rookie quarterback star.
Stroud under center on 2nd and 20 at the Browns 37. One back motor. CJ fakes the give, steps out to his right. He's got a lot of time, and he throws deep, and he wants Dalton Schultz. Has him! Rock and roll! Touchdown, Houston!
That courtesy of Mark Vandermeer and Texans Sports, I think it's Sports Radio 610. It's down in Houston, obviously. And Mark Vandermeer, a guest on the show last week. Matter of fact, 9 to noon, we have our way of, elevating. We can ride luck. There are waves of karma, depending upon your belief in such things. We can also have absolutely god-awful opinions that couldn't be more wrong. It's the nature of what we do here 9 to noon. Mark Vandermeer, Dan Miller, and Wayne Larrivee all on the show last week. All three teams advance. We also had longtime Vox. Go Bucks, go Knowles. Gene Deckeroff, he was on. So when you're betting the Eagles and Bucks, use that information however you see fit.
Oh my gosh, you are above average at that.
The game against the Browns and Texans was interesting because in some ways we were watching our own offense trying to find its way, or the perception of what our Vikings offense can be, Max, if that makes sense, hindered with the fourth quarterback used by the Browns in 2023. And don't forget about Driscoll. I think they used Driscoll in the final week. They were so locked into the playoffs, Joe Flacco got a bye week. How about that?
Unbelievable.
Being so just keyed in and cemented in your playoff spot with your fourth quarterback option of the season, and you give him a week to chill, and the news story is coming out, and he still made his $75,000 game check. That's it. I mean,
hey, it's not a bad way to live.
No, it's not. But Flacco came back to earth. And I remember when we were still trying to get into the playoffs, when the Vikings still had a shot before effectively just absolutely torpedoing themselves on New Year's Eve against the Packers in one of the more embarrassing performances that I've seen in recent years. It was kind of, well, who cares if they make the playoffs? Mullins is just going to screw the whole thing up in a playoff game anyway. But then everyone's watching Flacco. And at the time, people were mentioning Carson Wentz, who signed on with the Rams. Joe Flacco was available. Carson Wentz was available. And we got Josh Dobbs? What the hell were we doing? Now, I will say, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. That's fine. Who on earth was going to pick Joe Flacco off the couch versus Josh Dobbs, who had been starting games, albeit one of the worst teams in the NFL in Arizona? Nobody was. I didn't see any of it.
Yeah, people were acting like Joe Flacco just won the Super Bowl last year,
Correct.
and then we left him on the couch. It's not the case.
Another stupid decision by the Vikings front office, picking Dobbs over Flacco. But at any rate, Flacco, we saw it. And it was a 2-part series, and it was a short one. And here's part one.
Here's Flacco getting the snap. Here's some pressure by Barnett, and Flacco releases just in time. It's picked up by Steven Nelson. He's got the INT across the 30, the 40, the 50, right sideline, the 40, the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, pick 6. Yes! Steven Nelson. Yes! Take that, Cleveland.
Oh, whoa. Take that. And then here was part 2.
Flacco to throw. Flacco, it's picked off. Here we go to the left, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Christian Harris. That's the second one.
Oh.
Second pick 6 of the game. Welcome to Houston, Joe Flacco.
Didn't the analyst on that one almost sound like he had Tourette's and he just couldn't hold himself? That's the second one. Welcome to Houston. I loved it.
That, or he has some personal vendetta with Joe Flacco.
Bleep you, Flacco.
You didn't hold the elevator doors open.
See you in the parking lot, Flacco. Just completely torpedoed the game in about a 3-minute stretch. And they were down 10 at half. They forced the punt by Houston. And then I think they were on a 50-yard drive. So they may have even been in field goal or near field goal territory. I don't have that in front of me at the moment, but that was it. And that was the game. 45-14 is the final. And maybe some Vikings fans are saying, hey, even if we had gotten to the playoffs, Max, that's probably what was going to happen. So the C.J. Stroud thing, though, he's unbelievable. Finished with a near perfect rating. He has a 274 through the air, the 3 touchdowns. And so we kind of saw what maybe we perceived the QB situation was going to be had the Vikings made the playoffs. And then on the other side of it, man, it sure looks kind of fun when you get to root for a high-flying rookie QB that slings it, leading the NFL in yards per game, probably would have led the league in total yards if he hadn't been concussed. Wow. Look at those beautiful deep balls that he throws. Wow. Look at the anticipatory throws. Wow. Look at his maturity in the way that he manages and handles the offense. Wow. Look at how unfazed he is in any moment. A lot of wows on Saturday with C.J. Stroud. How good it would be, Vikings fans, if Sunday to Sunday to Sunday to Sunday, we got to sit and watch a highly touted rookie that worked. And that was kind of my feeling throughout that game on Saturday. Absolute blowout. And frankly, in some ways, I'm only disappointed because I didn't get to see Stroud have to sweat in the fourth quarter because of those pick sixes. It went so bad so quickly that it was, let's just hand the thing off and try and get out alive. Let's not hand it off to Dameon Pierce, by the way, if Paul Charchian's listening. No, they handed it to Devin Singletary, the best running back on the team. Devin Singletary, not Dameon Pierce, for any of those juiced into fantasy football leagues. By the way, he's offered contrition on that about 50 times, but I'm going to keep bringing it up at least another handful between now and the Super Bowl. But it's all good. That Houston team, whether it's and I don't know, maybe Stefanski gets nods for Coach of the Year because what he was able to do. All jokes aside about the Flacco meltdown, the fact is they found a way to do what the Vikings wanted to do and couldn't. And they also had a fantastic defense, a defense for the Minnesota Vikings that was kind of a house of cards and fell apart towards the end of the season, just not enough competent bodies to put on the field. The Browns, for the most part, among the elites in the NFL defensively for most of the season. Now that defense on the road didn't necessarily carry, but ultimately that defense was high end, finding the way to run after losing Nick Chubb early on in the season. Didn't get enough on the ground. Part of the problem with that loss on Saturday Just couldn't get things moving with Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, but they found a way to do those things over the course of the season. So, Coach of the Year there, D'Amico Ryans, and what that defense on the come, the quarterback, high end, doing this with injuries. Tank Dell coming out of nowhere, another pick that they're gonna have him back and healthy a year from now. It was unbelievable, creating some envy, creating some jealousy as I watched that game. Now later on Saturday, I was ready for this one just to be over with.
And now the Chiefs spin out. They're going to go to a single wing type play here. This is going to be a direct snap. It goes to Pacheco, spinning. Now moving to the left side. Pacheco, touchdown! Kansas City! The single wing again being used on the direct snap spinner. And all of the single wing coaches spike the ball with the Kansas City Chiefs. And now the Chiefs have opened up a 25-7 lead on a 3-yard run by Pacheco.
That may have been probably the most boring game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Did you see it that way?
Yeah, I would say so. Because even though there were some other games that were one-sided, it just the Dolphins never really had that juice. I mean, outside of the one big touchdown to Tyreek Hill, there was a flash, just a moment, but it never felt like they were in the game. It never felt like they were going to battle their way back in. It was just completely one-sided. The Chiefs just utterly dominated Miami the entire time.
Yeah, they still as bad of a season as the Chiefs offense had with the drops. And Travis Kelce had 2 or 3 nasty ones himself in that game on Saturday night. You kind of forget about how good that defense has been, how good the secondary's been. Nick Bolton, second or third year linebacker, tons of tackles, making plays. Chris Jones constantly wrecking games. Yet another thing that as a Vikings fan, again, the tradition. And I hope it doesn't have to be this way for long, watching games. And man, that's a sweet young quarterback that I'd love to have on my team and root for. Or, that's a sweet game-wrecking 3-technique monster in the middle that they can move all over the line, as a matter of fact, and he single-handedly can ruin games. But, man, Tua looked cold.
Yeah, he did.
Tua looked chilly.
None of the players on the Dolphins looked like they wanted any part in that game. If they could have sped the clock up like it was Madden, they probably would have hit the A button and done that. None of them looked like they were really into it from the jump.
Well, it was kind of like talking with Alan Horton last segment about the Wolves, where if they and he put it right, just you set a precedent early on in that game, and that thing's over. And they're going to ride it out, and we're going to do whatever we can to try and make something work and make this thing a game and win it. But it looked like the Carolina Panthers 2014-ish at not US Bank Stadium, but TCF Bank Stadium, the College Field, where it's not that cold, but cold. And Cam Newton got hit a couple of times, and he clearly just did not want to participate in the game anymore. Right. It was over. We had blocked punts. That was Detroit Lakes go crazy with Adam Thielen. I think Everson Griffin got in on the action as well. But it was so cold, you just knocked him down a couple of times, and it was over. And the defensive injuries, holding Harrison Butker to the field goals certainly plays into a lopsided game potentially being worse, but not as bad. But in the end, Tua just looked awful. Just looked like he did not want to be there, just waiting for this thing to end, 0 answers. And it ended up being kind of a super anticlimactic and unenjoyable game to watch, weather and all of that included. And that kind of, minus the drama, that's probably what most people were thinking when they watched Seahawks Vikings in the 2015 season. Thanks for nothing, Blair Walsh, but all the same. Just watching a game like that, as cold as it is, and the wind blowing the ball around, the incomplete passes, and just the inability to do anything because it is so bone-chillingly cold. The Chiefs move on. I think they woke up a little bit, so we'll see how that goes next weekend, where the Houston Texans are playing on Saturday. So we know that part. But they got to wait to find out whether the Bills or Steelers win today. If the Bills win, it's Chiefs at Bills on Sunday, and it's Texans at Ravens on Saturday. If the Steelers upset the Bills today, and they're 10-point dogs, then the Texans will go to the Chiefs on Saturday, and the Steelers will go to the Ravens on Sunday. So that's where things sit in the AFC. When we return, we'll look at yesterday's games, dig into a little more detail, hate on Kirby Joseph a little bit, and try to figure out how the hell the Cowboys fumbled away their season. It's 9 to noon on the Fan on a Monday, and Max Fuller's here. I'm Nordo. PA's out today. He'll be back tomorrow, but more text messages, some NFL bits around the corner.
3.
The Fan.
Big pimpin', baby. That's right. Big pimpin', spinning cheese. Talk to him. Bun B, Pimp C, Jigga Man. You know I thug them, hug them, love them, leave them, but I don't trust or need them. Take them out the hood, keep them looking good, with diamond cuffs that'll freeze them. First time they fuss, I'm breezing. Talk about what's the reasons. I'm a pimpin' every sense in the word, mama. Better trust and believe them. In the cup where I keep them, till I need a word, till I need to beat it up, then it's BB, then I'm picking them up, then I play with it quick in the truck. Many chicks wanna put Jigga fist in cuffs, divorce him and split his bucks, just because you got good sex, I'ma break bread so you could be living it up. I pass with nothing, y'all be frontin', me give my heart to a woman, not for nothing, never.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Sounds like at the end of this segment, we're going to try something different.
Oh, really?
Something sneaky.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Always innovating 9 to noon. That's what they've always said. Let me see here. Text messages 64686. Bradshaw and Bryant text line. If Cousins doesn't go down, they win wild card over Packers. They don't make the playoffs, and last night Green Bay doesn't win. However, this is fantasy. Jordan Love isn't a Super Bowl champion yet. However, it's nice to see success and new QBs with talent in the NFL. Also excited for C.J. Stroud. Hope the Vikings can win so I don't have to listen to the we never. Okay, that was... Will we ever quantify how costly the Scene Booth draft was? Even last year. Addison is a win, of course, but other than that, we're not getting any depth from the draft. And I know it goes back before Kwesi, but it's certainly not improving. Yeah, that's the combination, and I put it in the open, using this again from Ben Gessling in the Strip, and he's dead right. See, these are all the feelings associated with watching two division rivals win in the playoffs. And you're stuck trying to figure out what the cap situation is. Like, hold on here. So it's Kirk's 28 against the cap and he's not even here? And so, like, voidable years? What's happening? Top 100 picks in the 2024 draft. The Packers, they have 5. So the youngest team in the NFL in the playoffs, like the last 40 or 50 years, has a chance to get younger and possibly has a chance to get even better in 2024. And they have some cap space related issues, so they will have to adjust. There's no doubt about that. The Lions have 4. Good as a better. Bears have 3. But the A topic for them picks 1 and 9 overall. The Vikings, meanwhile, have just 2. Yeah, I don't know how to attack. And as we continue to talk about the draft, and I'm glad this texter mentioned it. The back end of the text was, I know it goes back before Kwesi, but it's certainly not improving. And that's the key. So judging Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah on his first 2 drafts, this season, lack of picks, really. You get 6 guys out of the gates. You like Jordan Addison. That's a hit, right? We like that. Mekhi Blackmon, I believe he did have an interception on the season, but ultimately there were some moments where he was caught flat-footed, maybe some ball watching, maybe didn't make a play on what ultimately became a touchdown. He's a rookie. And you get him in the 3rd round, needs to be better. Jay Ward, pretty nondescript season, other than maybe a few false starts on special teams plays. or offside, I should say, on special teams plays. Jaquelin Roy used more out of necessity than functional ability. Jaron Hall, the heck happened with the BYU kid? He just didn't look ready to play against the Packers. And so in the midst of, how much of that was we feel Jaron Hall gives us the best shot to win versus I'm just tired of Nick Mullins throwing interceptions, so we're going to throw the rookie into the fire on New Year's Eve and see what happens. We saw what happened. It was awful. Dwayne McBride, the running back, go Blazers. And he was a practice squad kid the entire season. So effectively, into 2024, from your rookie class, you're excited that Jordan Addison has a chance to build on a tremendous rookie campaign. Not Puka Nacua tremendous, but pretty damn good. Nearly 1,000 yards on 70 receptions his first season. Got the 10 touchdowns as well. Fresh start for the first-round pick. But you want your first-round picks to play right away anyway. Mekhi Blackmon, there are good things. It's good times, bad times with Mekhi. So out of that draft, as of now, and it's tough to judge all of them off of just 1 year, you're kind of feeling like one for sure, maybe two. Okay. What about 2022? Because now you've had 2 full seasons to analyze these guys. You guys, and all of you listening have gone through this. Lewis seen that it's an L of L's. He wasn't ready to start before he got injured. So even using the excuse that he lost his rookie year, that's not a great excuse. And he was healthy for 2023 and was a healthy scratch most of those times. Played like 8 snaps on defense the entire season. Andrew Booth not getting better. The fact that he just stayed mostly healthy and was available for a large part of the season, that in itself may be a growth moment for him. He's basically been hurt since Pop Warner. Ed Ingram, he's all right. Okay, there's Ed. Brian Asamoah, what happened to him? The undrafted kid took his job and his lunch money and everything. He played less than 40 snaps on defense this season. Caleb Evans, getting benched regularly towards the end of the season. What happened with that regression? Asazia Tomowa not on the team. Ty Chandler, best running back with an awful running game. Okay. Vidarian Lowe no longer on the team. Traded him away. Jalen Naylor ultimately on IR. Nick Muse, preseason superstar, had 1 catch on the season. I think it was the final game of the season. 1 catch, 22 yards. If he turned that into an average his entire career, if he had 22 yards per reception and caught like 50 of them, we'd be having a different conversation about the 7th rounder, Nick Muse. Yes, the drafting's been awful. I'm glad you pointed out the fact that the drafting has been awful for nearly a decade. Going back to the 2015 draft. The 2015 draft where not all pro, but it was Trey Waynes early. Then you get into Kendricks. Then you get into Daniil Hunter, who 8-9 years later is still the best defensive player on your team. That is a massive problem in the drafting department. When we're playing money games with this guy at age almost 30, and we have not drafted anybody since then that can make plays defensively, to take over, to be that young, budding star. Stephon Diggs, 5th-round pick, got a ton of usage out of him. Many amazing times, including a miracle that Max played a highlight of earlier. And then he even flipped him for a 1st-round pick that became Justin Jefferson. So, yes, the things you think about when you watch 2 division rivals win. And we just haven't mentioned enough how costly that draft has been, because it was very expensive, very devastating and detrimental. But it is part of a trend now that is nearly a decade long of non-effective drafting. And it gets us into these constant yearly conversations where, do we have enough money for this guy? Do we have enough money for that guy? The Michael Pierce acquisition. He opts out because of COVID in 2020, and then he can't stay on the field in 2021. Just signed an extension, I believe, with the Baltimore Ravens, where he came from and where he went back to after he left the Purple. And appears to be flourishing just fine. And he got last weekend off because his team's the best in the AFC. Good for Michael Pierce. How about the Davenport thing? Oof. Could have used Davenport this year, a team that lacks talent and lacks depth. So we put at least a couple of eggs, put at least, few eggs in the basket of a guy that has proven that he can't stay on the field. And we are all shocked that played out in 2023. So these are the things, again, that you think about when you're frustrated and everybody's moving on in the playoffs except for you. Packers better. Lions better. The Bears, I still got to figure out this thing with Justin Fields. But they have 2 picks in the top 10. Feels like they'll figure it out in one way or another. But that does bring us to the games where we get daggers and kitties winning and all of those things.
Play action and bootleg left, half bootleg left. Now throw back the other way. He's got him wide open. Down the right side. Musgrave, end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown! Luke Musgrave! And a dagger! A dagger right through the heart of the Cowboys.
Whew. Wayne Larrivee. That was kind of what I was thinking of. I didn't hear the game on the radio. I was just wondering when he was going to drop the dagger. And he did. But he waited until, I think that made it 41. He didn't wait until 48, but he got it at 41. Mike McCarthy's out, right? Like that has to happen.
He's got to be. I'm surprised we haven't heard the news already. I mean, there has to be a fall guy, and I think Dak is a $60+ million dead space hit if they got rid of him. So they're probably going to ride with Dak one more year, and Mike McCarthy's the obvious guy to make change here.
See, I would never think in an alternate universe, or in this one actually, that Bill Belichick would want to coach for a guy like Jerry Jones.
No.
Because that's been, I mean, it just blew up over the course of yesterday afternoon. It was alluded to in some ways as soon as he left the New England Patriots. That if things went wrong for McCarthy, that was I guess they spend time together away from football. I guess there's some sort of relationship there.
I never would have thought that.
Between him and Jerry and maybe his son Steven. But that just makes no sense to me. Where a guy that can come in and truly command everything would find a way to coexist with a guy that demands to have his hands on everything at the general manager level. I mean, he barely lets the coaches talk to the media down in Dallas. He's
right.
on radio shows.
Yeah.
And while he can't fire himself as a guy that's, again, had his hands in the operation of talent acquisition and scouting ever since he took over the Cowboys 30-some years ago, he can't fire himself. So it sounds like Mike McCarthy's day is done. I still, it's so impressive, and it pains me to do it from a rivalry standpoint. I don't want success for the Packers. I don't want to receive the text messages and the taunting and the smugness that I received yesterday. I don't want that to happen on a regular basis. But you can't help but be impressed with LaFleur's game plan coming into that game and how everything that prior to the season, if you go back and you listen to LaFleur and you go back and hear, well, this is what needs to happen for Jordan Love to develop now that we're handing the baton to him full time. Everything happened. And the health issues and what they dealt with earlier in the year with Aaron Jones, not able to run the ball, A.J. Dillon, I mean, that just, it's not good. And you Pack fans know that. But Aaron Jones, who, by the way, owns the Cowboys. He's got like 9 TDs in his last 4 games or something like that against Dallas. And he had 3 yesterday. That was an A topic. Getting Jordan Love to slow things down, make better decisions in certain moments on the field. People making excuses for him earlier in the year. Well, Jordan wasn't great, but what about all these penalties? Well, they shored up the penalty situation. They slowly get healthier over the course of the year. pretty nicely done with that offensive line yesterday, holding up against this defensive front that I thought would absolutely frustrate and annihilate Jordan Love. Micah Parsons, a non-factor in a home playoff game. Head-scratching just to even fathom that and think that. Outcoached, outfoxed, and brutalized were the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. I still just can't get over that. And congratulations to the Kitties, of course, as well. They did exactly what they needed to do defensively, where 3 red zone trips and Stafford can't get into the end zone. And they mentioned it on the TV broadcast, and they were right about it. Trouble running the ball, that was going to be an A topic into the game. But again, the tandem of Nakua, who blew up last night, I think he set the rookie record for reception yardage in a playoff game. So Nakua was fantastic, the long, deep touchdown. But coming out of halftime, you got Dan Campbell, and Campbell's sitting there. He's just, all kinds of, I wonder if he's a Kodiak or a Copenhagen guy. That bottom lip was working.
Yeah, it was.
And he said it right. Hey, we can't have these one play explosive touchdown bits. Like it's awful and it sucks and it has to stop. And being able to limit them in that regard and just show up in the red zone. 3 touchdown drives. And they mentioned it on the TV broadcast. Cooper Kupp. It became a thing where they weren't moving the ball with Kyron or that Rivers cat. McVay just making these no-name running backs money all the time. Forget what Rivers' first name is. But not moving it in the red zone. And then, boom, it's got to be Cooper Kupp. And that's all Aaron Glenn and that defense did. We're going to shut down Cooper Kupp and make you find somebody else. And they did that and held Stafford to 3 field goals in the red area. And that was the entire difference in the game. Finding Josh Reynolds, former Ram. I don't know if that was part of the conversation into the game, but Reynolds playing a massive part in it. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't make the Pro Bowl, but's all pro. How does that work? He was fantastic last night. They showed up, man. It was for the first time in 3 decades being able to host one of those things and playing the way that they did and getting over the top. It was amazing, which goes back to some of those text messages I was reading. Is those are the things you feel and those are the things you think about when 2 of your division rivals are ascending the way that both the Packers and the Lions are. Young teams with some money in their pockets and an opportunity to get younger and better even in this draft. The NFC North, Vikings can get healthy and jump right back into this. But the NFC North is not going to be, hey, win the border battle, get one against the Lions, sweep the Bears, and win a division. This is going to be a tough-ass division for the next 4 or 5 years. And it's all because we're watching 2 teams that, one, appears to have the recipe of recipes in developing quarterbacks. The other, nothing but ace the draft. And we're sitting here on the outside complaining about Lewis Cine and Andrew Booth. And those are the differences between where we are and where these 2 playoff teams are at this point in time. We will jump back into NFL-related conversation with Lavelli Neal III. See, new thing. We're bumping out. 9 to noon does not bump out.
Look at that. I kind of like the vibe, though.
I think we should bump out 9 to noon. We do it for the opening segment, but we don't bump out typically 9 to noon. But we're going to start. New year, new traditions. Hopefully not watching playoff games and wishing we were there, but bumping out. We'll start simple, 9 to noon. Pat Micheletti is next. The hockey team is in absolute pure peril right now. And they bookended a 4-game week with shutout blowouts at XL Energy Center. Pat Micheletti is going to join me next. Lavelli Neal III, final hour. And we continue on 9 to noon on The Fan.
Daddy, slow down your flow. Put it on me like a G, baby, nice and slow.
EA on The Fan.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Joining me now, Pat Micheletti. Beyond the Pond, Beyond the Pod. Hockey aficionado. How you doing, Patrick?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing well. When you were a kid up in Hibbing and it was weather like this, would you still try to make it out onto the ice if you could?
Oh, we would, automatic. We didn't know any better. We literally did not know any better. And of course, we were out there all day. And once you get going and you get used to the cold a little bit, you're fine. But I wouldn't do it today.
All right.
You know,
you got soft. You got a little soft. Okay.
That's what we did, Nordo. That's what we did growing up.
Oh, I love that. What's going on with the hockey team right now? That being the Minnesota Wild.
Well, where do you begin? I mean, I think obviously we all know about the injuries and what happened there. But I will say this: you hear the old adage, "Play me more, and I'll show you what I can do." And they had an opportunity. Some of these players that were on the lower rung of the lineup to get a chance to show themselves. And that's when you need those guys to come through. That's when you need them to show. And quite frankly, it hasn't happened. And, you know, we can sit and, harp on Kaprizov for not getting 2-3 goals a game, et cetera, in the top six and stuff. But, at some point in time, you just got to come to the reality that this team is just not good enough to even with their full complement of players.
Yeah.
I think they're falling short, and that's just the reality of it. That's the way I see it. But we should all have known that kind of going in. And listen, they play hard, they try. But there's just not enough there.
Yeah, we're getting to a point in this season, and it's been a while since we would really even fathom to guess or talk about this. But at some point, are you in the mindset of you're not tanking, but you kind of just shut this thing down and you start maybe trying to maneuver yourself into a spot for the draft, or are we inching towards that? Because I'm glad you mentioned it. We're in a spot right now, Pat, where you can get excited about Jonas Brodin getting back and all these guys, but even with all the available bodies and the preferred names on the ice, you're going to get to a spot where even if that does make a marked spark or jump to the thing, it might just be too late.
Well, a couple things. Number one, I think you don't even have to use that word. I think it just happens itself.
Yeah.
And number two, you never want to have that conversation to the players.
Right.
You always want your players to try to win hockey games. That's what they're paid to do. And they all have a lot of pride. And as an individual, you can go inside that locker room, and I believe in any locker room for that matter, because you get to a level where you're a professional and you don't quit. And so I think the players are going to try their hardest. I think they're going to try to win games. I just think by the rest of the league and the teams that they're up against, that it's going to be difficult to get a lot of wins going forward. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And, as part of that, the evaluation process. So team decides, okay, we need a kick in the pants here. We're going to move on from Dean Evison, and we're going to put John Hines in this spot.
Yep.
How do you properly, is there even a way to properly evaluate how John Hines is doing at this particular spot, given the injuries and given really, I mean, you got the spark you wanted, I think, for a short period of time, but that had a really short expiration date. And now it's just trying to get out alive and offer a professional effort, it feels like, on a game-by-game basis right now. How do you properly evaluate how the head coach is dealing with very limited resources and a hell of a lot of losing, at least in the recent term?
I don't think you really can, because I'll take you back to the time that John Torchetti replaced, I think it was Mike Yo at the time, correct?
Yeah, I loved his accent.
And they went on a little run. Did Boudreaux replace? I don't know who he did. I can't even. Yeah, whatever. But the point being is that any new coach that comes in, there's going to be a renewed energy and a new accountability from the players, and you're going to get that bump. It's what happens after that bump. So I don't really think you can evaluate John Hines and his mark on the team. I mean, let's face it. When you look at this roster and you say, okay, where should guys be slotted, right? If you're looking to the future, which we all should be with this team, where do guys fit? And when can you say, yep, this team that we put together works? I look at a Marcus Johansson. Is he a top 6 guy? I don't know, but I tell you what, he's a top 9 guy, and maybe he's a third liner that's going to produce from that area. Look at Pat Maroon. Pat Maroon's 35 years old. He's playing in your top 9, sometimes your top 6. Nothing against his work ethic and his attitude and his ability to score some big goals. But over the long haul, over an 82-game season, is he a top 9 guy? I don't think anymore. He won cups with the St. Louis Blues and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he's got 4 rings. But he did it in a role that helped those teams, a 4th line role. And so, and we can go up and down the lineup, right? Duhaime and Dewar. Okay, these guys have been 4th liners. I get it, but they've been, they've been moved up a little bit at times to, when all these injuries hit. And what have they done? They've got 10 goals between them in a cumulative 60 some odd games or more that they've played together. And they're both minus players. Frederick Gaudreau, right?
Yeah.
He's been in your top 6. He's been in your top 9, and, he's got 9 points. He's got 9 points. And so, and maybe it's no fault to him. Maybe he should be lower in that lineup, like a 4th line role, where he can be that Swiss Army knife that they want him to be. And so, just when you look at it and evaluate it honestly, they're trying. You want them to win. You're still going to cheer for them. You hope that they get on a run. But I just, overall, when you, well, at least when I assess this lineup, there's some holes there on the back end. Yeah. When your captain's been hurt, and that's hurt this team. He's only played 16 games, and Brodin out, and having to rely on a rookie like Faber who's been phenomenal. Is him or Eck will be the MVP of your team. That you can't have that and expect to be any higher in the standings than you are, in my opinion.
Hey, last thing for you, at Pat Mick 2626. How's Motzko's team doing? I see they got the Buckeyes at Mariucci this weekend. I think they swept Robert Morris. I didn't even know Robert Morris had a hockey team, to be honest with you. But they've been kind of having their own battles and trials and tribulations this season. How's Motzko's team doing?
Well, I think they finally found everything that they need to do and recognized what they need to do. They've won their last 3. They're sitting in 3rd in the Big Ten, and I don't know if they'll be able to catch Michigan State. They're 13 points behind them now. these teams all play each other, so you never know what can happen. But I think they're poised for a good second half. They're understanding how they have to win, which I think took them some time, because last year, when you have 5 guys that are all playing in the National Hockey League today that could be on their team are not on their team, and you could rely on Cooley and Nyes and Snuggerud, that line to get you out of any danger. They have to win differently. They have to win tougher games. And so I think they understand that now. They're a mature team. And so I like where they're at, and I think they'll have a good second half.
Thanks for all you do, as always. Looking forward to hearing you on the radio, as we always do over the weekend. And enjoy your day, my friend. Try to get out on the ice if you can, okay?
I'm going to watch both games today. We had great games yesterday. I loved both games. And I think we'll have a couple more good ones today in the NFL.
I think you're right. You're going to get to what you're going to do is you're going to watch the games, but you're going to turn down the TV volume. You're going to hear Pittsburgh and Buffalo on the Plus 96.7 at 3:30, and then you got the primetime game Westwood One style on these airwaves.
And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to text you.
Well, I got some ideas for you.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Pat Micheletti at Pat Mick 2626. Minnesota Wild 4 p.m. today. We'll be hosting the New York Islanders. A chance for a team that has lost 8 of their last 9, get 2 points and try to find some positivity in a stretch that has been nothing short of dreadful. That is all I kind of want to do is zoom into the 11 a.m. hour with Lavelli Neal III, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Cornucopia potpourri of topics with Lavelle as the final hour gets underway. It's Nordo in for PA. PA's back tomorrow, but the final hour in front of us, 9 to noon on the Fan.
It's called the Rump Shaker. The beach is like sweeter than candy. I'm feeling manly and your shaker's coming in handy. Slap